TV. This is Rini Das, your host. Today we have the distinct pleasure of talking with Garry Schultz. Garry is the Vice President of Customer Care at AVG Technologies. He has been a really consummate customer care visionary. He has led several customer care teams at Sonic, at Roxio, and at AVG. He's a published author about quality customer service and processes. He maintains a fabulous Tumblr blog about contact centers and customer care. And something that you must know about him, he takes his little red guitar wherever he goes. And he talks about it, and he has a lot of videos up on Google+, playing music out there. Garry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you for the kind words, and I didn't get you anything.
Well, let us start with what made you explore, if we will tell our audience what made you explore Google+. And so far, what do you think is one of the greatest feature or favorite feature that you have? And then we can talk about, some of the other things related to customer care.
Okay. So Google Plus and what brought us to Google Plus. Google Plus is like an evolution, or the all social media is like an evolution, and the entire market's been somewhat fragmented, a little bit confused about how to do customer care and how to do pre and post sales support with some of the social media channels. And then along came Google Plus, which seemed to me to be designed from the ground up. Probably not specifically for post-sale or pre-sale support, but with a far more holistic view of what was needed in the communications channel to support consumers. And I'd like to take a step back to compare it to something. 30 years ago or so, when I first got into the customer care industry, the telephone was a de facto conduit for communications. Consumers will simply use the telephone in order to contact the manufacturer for any issues that they were having. And that was because it was ubiquitous. Everybody had a telephone. Everybody knew how to use the thing. Okay. Social media. So now flash forward up 30 years now, and we got social media, and we've got Twitter, 140 characters. We've got Facebook. We've got YouTube. We've got Yelp. There's a whole raft of them. But none of them have the maturity or the reach that I think Google Plus has. So what Google Plus has done, by virtue of that, let's face it, it is Google. They are huge. They are the gorilla, and they're self-made gorilla, which is the best kind of gorilla to be, I guess. It is ubiquitous, which means any consumer can access it. Any consumer can eventually figure out, how to use it and how to connect with the manufacturer. So to go back to what I was just saying about 30 years ago, Google Plus I see as the telephone of 30 years ago, where it's just everywhere. Consumers got ease of access. The burden, the entry burden is very, very low. So that's what drew me to it, and that's what caused me to take a closer look at it. And the more I looked at it, the more I liked the features that I saw, the more I liked the depth. And again, I'm going to go back to the fact that it's backed and sponsored by Google, meaning that it's not going to go anywhere next week. It's not going to be bought out, nor are they going to go for some wild and wacky monetization scheme that is going to compromise the utility, which is easy communication for any consumer.
Absolutely. One of the things very famously last year, Michael Dell put out a request, and I think Dell has probably the most important, functional, from what I hear, customer care platform. And because, the features of having Hangouts and video and chat, I cannot imagine how chat platforms will exist later on, because here you can just do it, and you can get all the data out to your CRMs and, wherever you have it. So what type of experience, in customer care would you like to see companies go using Google+?
Okay, well, the key word here is, and this is making the rounds of all the conventions and such, it's hardly a new one, frictionless. That's what it's all about. So, we've had our ups and downs with telephones and IVRs and, waiting queues from hell and that sort of thing. What we're trying to go for now is, and I mean, across the industry, this isn't secret plan or anything. It's got to be frictionless. The consumer's got to be able to get in touch with the post-sale support or pre-sale support organization that they want to get in touch with. Easy, with no sense that they're transversing multiple technologies. You mentioned earlier on such as chat and screen sharing. In video, we're doing video right now and broadcasting, that sort of thing. The whole idea of all those technologies has got to go away. It's got to be frictionless. It's got to be something that people just use. And I'm going to draw another analogy. I was on the telephone a few minutes ago. I'm going to go to the automobile now. You look at the car, and you look at consumer behavior with the car. Anybody can jump into a car. You can jump into my car, Renee, and you can immediately figure out how to start it. You can figure out how to operate it, the brakes, the whole 9 yards. You don't have to look at the instruction manual. The technology itself, right, has become secondary. It's just what you use to get from here to there. Google Plus, I think, is doing the same sort of thing. There's got to be it's all the bugs. Wrong word to use. All the idiosyncrasies haven't been worked out yet. There are some complexities, but the way I see it, it's going to be like a car. Your mom's going to be able to just get onto it, jump online, and be able to talk to Dell or Microsoft or Apple, and these different technologies, the radio and the transmission and the oil gauge and all that crap, the chat, the video and screen sharing is just going to be automatic. It's just going to work, and they're going to know how to use it.
I think so, and I think one of my hopes, given how Google has always worked with intuitive and clutterless design, I hope they bring that also here, because the less clutter you have on the design, and as long as they fix, as it grows, they should be really getting to that optimal level of what you talked about as intuitive design, right? I think that would really help. The other question I had, do you see what is the adoption level of using Google Plus in companies like where you are right now with AVG or other technology companies? Do you see questions coming up? People are actually thinking of using it?
Yeah. I was at a convention last week in Vegas, and I was on a social media panel, and that was actually one of the issues that came up. And the counter argument to it, or it's not actually a counter argument, I don't have no better word though, was the idea that it's not a matter of adoption, it's a matter that you have to be there anyways. Right. Our consumers are going to be there. They're it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a software company, hardware company, if you're making toasters for that matter. If your consumers are there, you've got to be there as well. They have a voice now. They have amplification and magnification of their voice on social media. One soccer mom who has a bad experience can do quite a bit of damage to a company's reputation very, very quickly. As a result, the whole idea of adoption, it's like secondary. That corporate America, corporate Europe has no choice but to embrace these channels, to monitor these channels, mediate, and figure out a way to be there for the consumers. So the adoption rate, it's a non-starter. Maybe another way to look at it is if you look at traditional channels that contact centers have used, they're starting to slowly, albeit, but collapse in favor of some of the new channels that are coming out, such as Google Plus, YouTube, and various other things. Did I answer your question, or did I take you far?
Yes, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think that's a very good point, and I think the reason I asked the adoption level is that's what people say that Google Plus is kind of empty out there, and I didn't find it empty or a ghost town. I think that people are operating. They might not be the same people operating in a different environment, but they're definitely they have 1 billion users right now.
Yes.
So and the conversations are happening. you will completely miss out. But unlike any other social media platform, Google Plus has the entire shebang of a technology platform by which you can bring all levels of communication, including voice, in this one place, one-stop place.
There's also a degree of segmentation that Google Plus adds on top of it. And, I still haven't got my mind completely around it, nor some of the people I'm working with on it, but circles, building communities, that sort of thing. So you can have one interface, you can have one place, and I'll draw an analogy that maybe Google wouldn't like, but you got a town square, and then I think with circles you can put people in communities that they belong in, kind of like stores or stalls around the square, and that's better for the consumer. It's also better for the customer care groups that are trying to support these consumers. As you segment, simple concepts. For instance, segmenting your power users from your novice users. A power user demands to be spoken to in a different voice than a novice user. A guy that's a little bit unsure about the right click.
Right.
It's a different message. It's a different degree of granularity than when you're dealing with a guy that designed his own TCP/IP stack.
Correct. Absolutely. It is much more driven by the personality and the people, the customers, right? As opposed to what we, want to segment it which is, companies typically do is by their convenience. So one last question, Garry. What do you have as questions, for our Gobsmacked community? Because we tend to send those questions out to other experts that you really need to be answered for you in the next 7 days.
Okay. Well, I think the big question for anybody in our industry, customer care, is social media. What is the ROI? How do we prove the ROI? How do we get funding released? I said earlier on that we've got to be there anyways, but you get a lot of pressure. You get a lot of CFO types that okay, well, does this mean that telephony is going to go down and social media is going to go up and it's a zero-sum game? Well, the answer to that is I certainly don't know. I've seen some interesting things. Tried to balance it. I'd rather other professionals are doing with the ROI challenge. I won't say problem, because it's definitely a challenge. The other thing is consolidation. Some of the tools that are out there are kind of interesting. I'd like to know what tools others are using. I've looked at Radiant 6. I've looked at Hootsuite, Get Satisfaction, a whole number of different sort of tools that I guess for the most part are aggregators. But which is the one that's best for what we're trying to solve for, which again is customer care, and at the end of the day, highest possible customer satisfaction and Net Promoter Score.
Absolutely. Thanks for those questions. We're going to send those out to people who joined the thing. By the way, I recently met the CEOs of all the 3 companies that you just mentioned, so I will personally send it out to them. What they have to say about that.
Excellent.
Thanks for your time. This has been another wonderful edition, hopefully, for all our audience with respect to Gobsmacked. Please join our community on Google+, and come and share your questions, your experiences, and help Garry get those answers that he's looking for. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Garry.
And thank you, Gobsmacked.
Thanks so much.
All right.